Dad Quiet Revenge.
The pharmacist's hands were shaking when she pulled me aside at Walgreens last Thursday. "Mr. Sullivan," she whispered, glancing around like someone might be listening. "I need to talk to you about your wife's prescriptions. My name is Jerome Sullivan. I'm 58, a retired police detective who spent 30 years working financial crimes in downtown Portland. I thought I knew how to spot trouble. Turns out I didn't know anything about the trouble living under my own roof. Dolores had been getting confused for about 4 years now. Started small, forgetting where she put her keys, mixing up appointments. Everyone said it was early dementia. Hell, she was 56, still young, but these things happen. Our family doctor said stress, maybe early onset. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Curtis, our son, stepped up like the good kid I thought he was. "Dad," he said, "about 3 years ago, you shouldn't handle Mom's medications alone. I'm a nurse practitioner. Let me organize everything." He'd just gotten divorced, was looking for a fresh start. Moving back home to help seemed natural. I was grateful. Dolores needed help, and Curtis had the medical training. He set up one of those weekly pill organizers, blue compartments for morning, white for evening. Took over her doctor visits, managed her prescriptions, drove her to appointments when I was busy with my consulting work. I thought we were lucky to have a son in healthcare. The pharmacist, Janet Morrison, had been filling our family's prescriptions for 15 years. Known her since Curtis was in high school. When he'd pick up antibiotics for strep throat, she pulled out a folder thick with printouts. "Jerome, I've been tracking the patterns for months now. Your wife's medication history doesn't make sense." She spread the papers across the pharmacy counter, checking again to make sure no other customers were nearby. "Look at this. Diazepam prescriptions. That's a veterinary sedative. No legitimate human doctor should be prescribing this to elderly patients. It's dangerous." My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step going downstairs. "What are you saying?" "Someone's been filling fake prescriptions. The signatures look legitimate, but the drugs." She shook her head, lowering her voice even more. "This stuff causes memory loss, confusion, disorientation. Everything your wife's been experiencing." I stared at those papers, my detective training kicking in automatically, dates, dosages, prescribing physicians. The pattern was there, clear as day once someone pointed it out. "Who's been picking up these prescriptions?" "Your son, Curtis. Every month for the past 48 months. Like clockwork. The drive home from Walgreens felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. I kept thinking about Curtis organizing Dolores's pills every Sunday night, sitting at our kitchen table with that careful concentration. How devoted he seemed, how he'd moved back in with us after his divorce to help with Mom, how insistent he'd been about managing her healthcare completely. "You've got enough to worry about, Dad," he'd said. "Let me handle the medical stuff. That's what I'm trained for." I'd been proud of him. Proud of having a son who stepped up when family needed help. Proud of his medical career, his dedication to helping people. Now I was wondering what the hell I'd missed. When I got home, Dolores was in the kitchen trying to make coffee. She stood there staring at the coffee maker like it was some alien device, holding the pot with both hands. This was the woman who used to run Roosevelt Elementary School for 25 years. Sharp as a tack, could remember every student's name, every parent's concern, every budget meeting detail. Now she couldn't figure out how to make the same coffee she'd been making for 35 years. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, taking the pot from her trembling hands. "Let me help you with that." She looked up at me with those confused eyes I'd been seeing more and more. "Thank you. I don't know what's wrong with me lately. Everything feels so foggy." Curtis walked in from the garage, still wearing his blue scrubs from the clinic. He had that same concerned expression he always wore when talking about Mom's condition. Big smile, gentle voice, the perfect devoted son. "How was your day, Dad?" "Mom doing okay today?" I watched him, really watched him this time, using the observation skills I developed interviewing suspects for 3 decades. The way his eyes went immediately to Dolores, then to the pill organizer on the counter. The way he checked his phone, like he was keeping track of something on a schedule. "Fine day," I said carefully. Junaid at the pharmacy had some questions about Mom's prescriptions though. His face didn't change much, but I caught it, just a tiny flicker. His left hand twitched slightly, the same tell I'd seen in interrogation rooms when suspects heard something that made them nervous. Questions about what kind of thing? Just routine insurance coverage stuff, making sure everything's being processed correctly. He relaxed visibly. That was another tell. The relief was too obvious, too quick. Oh good, I was worried there might be a problem with the new medications Dr. Walsh prescribed last month. That evening, Curtis worked his usual shift at the clinic, 3 to 11 p.m., Tuesday through Saturday. Soon as his car backed out of the driveway, I did what any retired detective would do when suspecting a crime in progress. I investigated my own house. Started with Curtis's room, the same bedroom he'd had as a teenager. Still had his high school baseball trophies on the shelf, but now there were medical textbooks, prescription pads, and what looked like pharmaceutical samples scattered around. It took me about 20 minutes of careful searching to find what I was looking for. In his closet, behind a stack of medical textbooks and continuing education certificates, was a small metal lockbox. The kind people use for important documents, jewelry, or things they don't want other people to find. I'd learned to pick simple locks during a burglary investigation back in 1998. Funny how old skills come back when you need them. The lock clicked open on my third try. Inside the box, 3 sets of fake prescription pads with different doctors' letterheads. Dr. Walsh, Dr. Martinez, Dr. Collins, all neurologists in the Portland area. And underneath those, a spiral notebook filled with what looked like medical notes but written in Curtis's handwriting. Page after page of clinical observations. But they weren't about random patients. They were about Dolores, about my wife. Subject showing increased confusion after evening dose increase. One entry read, memory retention down approximately 40% from baseline. Father expressing concern but attributing to natural progression. Subject, he was calling his own mother subject. I kept reading, my hands getting steadier as my cop instincts took over. This was evidence. This was documentation of a systematic crime. Month 18. Subject requires assistance with basic tasks. Cooking, cleaning becoming difficult. Father grateful for increased care assistance. No suspicion detected. Month 24. Memory episodes more frequent. Subject sometimes doesn't recognize familiar neighbors. Dr. Walsh appointment scheduled need to ensure he doesn't order blood work. Month 36. Subject showing signs of physical deterioration alongside cognitive decline. May need to reduce dosage slightly to avoid obvious medical emergency. The most recent entries made my blood run cold. Month 42. Subject showing significant memory deterioration. Increase evening dose to 7.5 milligrams. Father showing no suspicion. Plan proceeding on schedule. MF confirms timeline acceptable. Month 45, subject occasionally doesn't recognize father for 10 to 15 minutes after evening medication. Optimal progression. Financial arrangements with MF proceeding as discussed. The last page had financial calculations. Life insurance payout projections, house value estimates, something about power of attorney paperwork at the bottom in Curtis's neat handwriting. Total asset value approximately $770 in timeline, 6 to 8 months remaining, and there was a phone number with the initials MF. I photographed every page with my phone, making sure the images were clear enough to read. 30 years of building criminal cases had taught me that evidence doesn't mean anything if you can't prove it in court. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Same order, same position, same angle. The next morning, while Curtis was at work, I called my old partner, Dave Rodriguez. Dave still worked financial crimes, owed me a few favors from back when I'd covered for him during his messy divorce. Dave, I need you to run a background check on someone. Personal matter, but I need to keep it quiet. Sure thing, Jerome. What do you need? I gave him the phone number from Curtis's notebook. Start with this number, see who it belongs to. Then run a full financial background. Dave called back 3 hours later. Your number belongs to Maxine Foster, age 42, works as a pharmaceutical sales representative for MedTech Solutions, lives in a high-end apartment in the Pearl District. Here's the interesting part. She's been under IRS investigation for unreported income, and she was questioned twice for insurance fraud, though never charged. Anything else? Yeah. She's been making regular payments to someone named Curtis Sullivan. Your kid? My stomach dropped. How regular? $2,000 every month for the past 48 months, always on the 15th. Total of $96,000 transferred so far. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at Dolores. She was trying to read a book, but I could see her lips moving as she sounded out words she should have known by heart. The same woman who used to help elementary school kids with their reading was struggling to read a paperback novel. That evening, Curtis came home with flowers for her. White roses, her favorite, kissed her forehead like the perfect devoted son, helped her to the kitchen table for dinner. How was your day, Mom? You're looking better today. Dolores smiled, that vacant smile I'd been seeing more often. Thank you, sweetheart. I don't remember much about today, but I feel peaceful. Curtis prepared her evening medications, the same ritual I'd watched hundreds of times. 3 white tablets, 2 blue capsules, arranged neatly in a small dish beside a glass of water. Time for your evening pills, Mom. I watched her swallow them without question. Complete trust, the same trust she'd had when Curtis was 8 years old and she'd give him children's Tylenol for a fever. That trust was going to kill her. Mom's having a really good day, Curtis told me after she'd gone to sit in her chair with a book she couldn't read. Yeah, I said. She does seem better, but I was already planning my next move. The following day, I drove across town to MedTech Solutions. Maxine Foster worked out of a gleaming office building in the Pearl District, the kind of place where pharmaceutical sales reps made serious money selling to doctors and hospitals. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 2 hours, waiting. At 4:30 p.m., she walked out, blonde, maybe 5'6", expensive business suit, carrying a designer briefcase. She looked exactly like someone who could manipulate a vulnerable young man into doing something terrible. I followed her to a coffee shop downtown. Powell's City of Books had a cafe on the 3rd floor, busy enough that 2 people could have a private conversation without being overheard. She sat at a corner table, ordered something fancy with foam on top, and waited. Curtis showed up 20 minutes later, still wearing his scrubs from the clinic, looking nervous in a way I'd never seen before. He sat across from her, and even from 3 tables away, I could see the dynamic. She was in control. He was following orders. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could read body language. She spread papers across the table, looked like financial documents. Curtis nodded, took notes, asked questions that made her shake her head impatiently. She handed him an envelope thick enough to contain cash. He tucked it into his jacket pocket without counting it. When they finished talking, she left first. Curtis sat alone for another 10 minutes, staring at his coffee like he was trying to work up courage for something. I followed her to the parking garage, got her license plate number, and watched her drive away in a silver BMW. Then I went home and called Dave Rodriguez again. "I need you to put surveillance on someone," I said. "And Dave, this is going to sound crazy, but I think my son is trying to kill his mother." Dave didn't laugh when I told him about Curtis. That's what I liked about working with him for 12 years. He'd seen enough family crimes to know that blood doesn't always run thicker than greed. "What do you need?" he asked. "Financial surveillance on both of them, and I need to borrow some equipment." "What kind of equipment?" "The kind that records conversations and holds up in court." Dave met me at a diner in Beaverton the next morning. Brought a briefcase full of recording devices, wire transmitters, digital recorders, surveillance cameras small enough to hide in a pen. All department-approved equipment that would be admissible as evidence. "Jerome, you sure about this? If you're wrong about Curtis." "I'm not wrong." I showed him the photos of Curtis's notebook on my phone. "Look at this. 4 years of documented poisoning. He's been treating his own mother like a lab rat." Dave studied the images, his detective instincts taking over. "This is systematic, professional. Someone coached him, he looked up at me." "You think the Foster woman is running him?" "I think she found a weak target and turned him into a weapon." "What's your plan?" "I'd been thinking about this for 2 days. I'm going to stop giving Dolores the poison pills. Let her start recovering. When Curtis sees his plan falling apart, he'll panic, make mistakes. That's when I'll get him to confess. Dangerous. If he realizes what you're doing, then I'll be ready for him." That weekend, while Curtis worked a double shift at the clinic, I executed phase 1, called Dr. Preston Walsh, Dolores's neurologist, told him I wanted a second opinion and needed her off all medications for a complete evaluation. Walsh agreed to supervise a controlled withdrawal, said it was actually good medical practice to periodically reassess elderly patients' drug regimens. Then I went to work on the pills. 30 years of police work had taught me attention to detail. I photographed each pill in Dolores's weekly organizer before carefully removing them with tweezers. The Dazepam tablets were small, white, with D5 etched faintly on one side. I drove to 3 different pharmacies before finding vitamin B tablets that matched the size and color. Spent an hour with a nail file, carefully scratching tiny marks that looked like D5 from a distance. Not perfect, but close enough to fool someone who wasn't expecting to be deceived. Replaced every suspicious pill in the organizer, then photographed the results. Before and after shots that would prove tampering if Curtis noticed and tried to claim I was the one drugging Dolores. Monday morning, I started documenting everything. Dolores's behavior, her speech patterns, her memory responses. Tuesday, she asked me about a book she wanted to read. First time she'd expressed interest in reading in 2 years. Wednesday, she completed half a crossword puzzle. Thursday, she remembered our neighbor's name when he waved from across the street. By Friday morning, the change was obvious. Dolores came downstairs and made coffee without any help. Real coffee, the way she'd made it for 35 years. She stood in the kitchen humming something. Took me a minute to recognize it as the song from our wedding. "Jerome," she said, "when I walked in, I feel different. Clearer somehow, like I've been walking through thick fog and it's finally starting to lift." Curtis came home that evening to find his mother cooking dinner. Actually cooking chicken parmesan with the homemade marinara sauce she used to make every Sunday. The smell filled the entire house. "Mom, you seem so much better today," Curtis said, and I watched his face carefully. Confusion. Calculation. The beginning of alarm. "I feel wonderful," Dolores said, stirring the sauce. "Best I've felt in years. It's the strangest thing." Curtis looked at me over her head. "Did Dr. Walsh changed her medications. He wants to adjust some dosages. Nothing major. But Curtis wasn't buying it. That night, I heard him on the phone in his room. Door was closed, but the old house had thin walls. Maxine, we have a problem. She's getting better. Too much better, too fast. I couldn't hear her side of the conversation, but Curtis's responses told me everything I needed to know. I don't know how it's possible. She made dinner tonight. Real dinner, not just heating up soup. Pause. Yes, I'm sure I've been giving her the right doses. Something's changed. Longer pause. What do you mean, increase the dosage? We agreed that was too risky. Another pause, and his voice dropped even lower. Maxine, I can't just... That's not what we planned. If she dies suddenly, they'll do an autopsy. I pressed myself against the wall outside his door, recording everything on my phone. Okay. Yes, I understand. Tomorrow morning, I'll fix it. The next morning, Curtis offered to make breakfast. I've been working so much lately, he said, pulling eggs and bacon from the refrigerator. Let me cook for my two favorite people. He scrambled eggs, made toast, brewed fresh coffee, set Dolores's cup in front of her with extra care. Drink up, Mom. You need to stay hydrated. I watched Dolores lift the cup toward her lips. Watched Curtis watch her, that same calculating expression I'd seen him give terminal patients at the clinic when he thought no one was looking. Wait, I said, standing up quickly. Let me get some sugar for that coffee. I took the cup from Dolores's hands, walked to the counter like I was adding sugar, but instead poured the entire contents into a mason jar I'd hidden behind the coffee maker. Evidence. Here you go, sweetheart. I said, refilling her cup with fresh coffee from the pot. No poison this time. Curtis's eyes followed every movement. When Dolores took a sip of the clean coffee and smiled, I saw something flicker across his face. Not concern, not love, pure cold calculation. That afternoon, I drove the poisoned coffee to the same private lab I'd used for complicated criminal cases. Rush analysis, same-day results. Cost me $400, but I needed proof that would hold up in court. Results came back at 6 p.m., diazepam, 15 milligrams concentration. 3 times stronger than what he'd been giving her in pills, enough to put her in a coma, maybe kill her outright. My son had tried to murder his mother right in front of me, with a smile on his face. That evening, I called Detective Maria Santos. Maria had worked under me for 5 years before I retired, learned everything she knew about financial crimes from watching me work cases. She was smart, thorough, and more importantly, she trusted me. Maria, I need a favor. I need to wire up for a conversation. Personal case, but it's going to result in arrests. What kind of case? Attempted murder, elder abuse, financial fraud. I paused. And Maria? The suspect is my son. Maria didn't ask questions she didn't need answers to. That's what made her a good detective. She came over Tuesday evening with a briefcase full of equipment, wireless transmitters, digital recorders, backup devices, professional grade stuff that would be admissible in any courtroom. This goes under your shirt, she said, taping a transmitter the size of a quarter to my chest. Range is about 200 yards. I'll be parked across the street with backup units standing by. What if he runs? He won't get far. We've got units positioned at every exit from the neighborhood. Maria tested the equipment one more time. Jerome, you sure you want to do this? Once we start recording, there's no going back. I looked through the kitchen window at Dolores, sitting in her favorite chair reading a book, actually reading, following the story, turning pages at a normal pace. After 4 years of watching her disappear, I had my wife back, I'm sure. Wednesday evening, Curtis came home from his shift at the clinic. He looked tired, stressed in a way I hadn't seen before. The plan was falling apart and he knew it. Maxine was probably putting pressure on him to fix the situation before their entire scheme collapsed. I waited until Dolores went upstairs to take a bath. Then I walked out to the garage where Curtis was organizing his medical supplies. Tools hanging on the pegboard, workbench covered with pharmaceutical samples and medical equipment. The same garage where I'd taught him to change oil and throw a baseball. Curtis, I said, closing the door behind me, we need to talk. He was restocking his medical bag, back turned to me. About what, Dad? About the diazepam you've been giving your mother for the past 4 years? His hands stopped moving. For about 10 seconds, neither of us said anything. Then he slowly turned around, and I saw something I'd never seen in my son's face before. Not the devoted medical professional, not the concerned son, something cold and calculating that made my skin crawl. I don't know what you're talking about. I have the prescription records, Curtis. The fake ones you've been filling at 3 different pharmacies. I have your notebook with the dosage calculations and patient observations. I have photos of you meeting with Maxine Foster. He leaned back against the workbench, studying me like I was a problem he needed to solve. Dad, I think you might be getting confused. Maybe you should talk to someone about I tested the coffee you gave Mom yesterday morning, 15 milligrams of Dacipam, enough to put her in a coma. That's when his mask finally came off completely. The fake concern, the medical professionalism, the loving son act, all of it just evaporated. She was supposed to die 2 years ago, he said, voice flat and matter of fact. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to calibrate this stuff? Too little and she doesn't decline fast enough. Too much and it looks suspicious. I've been walking a tightrope for 4 years. The recording device was capturing everything. Why, Curtis? Why would you do this to your own mother? $450,000 in life insurance. Plus, this house is worth at least $320,000 now, probably more. And let's be honest, Dad, you're not getting any younger either. Someone needs to be thinking about long-term financial planning. He said it like we were discussing investment strategies instead of murder. Maxine has connections in estate planning. We had the whole thing mapped out. Mom dies of natural causes, dementia complications. Very sad but not unexpected. You grieve for a while, maybe develop a drinking problem. Accidental overdose 6 months later, also very sad, but these things happen to widowers. I stared at this person wearing my son's face. The other patients at your clinic. How many others? Just 3. All elderly, no close family, no one who'd ask too many questions. He shrugged. Maxine researched them carefully. We only targeted people whose deaths would look natural. Serial murder. Medical intervention. There's a difference. I heard car doors closing outside. Maria and her team moving into position. Curtis Sullivan. Maria's voice came from the garage door behind him. You're under arrest for attempted murder, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit fraud. He spun around, saw the 3 officers with Maria, saw the handcuffs, and something in his face just collapsed. The confident medical professional became a scared kid who'd been caught doing something terrible. Dad, please, he said as they read him his rights. Please don't let them do this. I'm still your son. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I didn't know who this person was. Maybe I never had? No, I said. My son died somewhere along the way. I don't know who you are. The trial took 8 weeks. Curtis pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. Got life without parole for serial murder. Maxine Foster was arrested 2 hours after Curtis, charged as the mastermind of a conspiracy that had killed 4 people across 2 states. She got life without parole, too. I testified for 6 hours about the investigation, the evidence, the systematic poisoning. Had to describe finding Curtis's notebook, following him to meetings with Maxine, testing the poisoned coffee. Hardest thing I've ever done, testifying against my own child. But Dolores was there every day, sitting in the front row, alert and strong and completely herself again. The prosecution called her recovery miraculous, complete cognitive restoration after years of systematic drugging. She remembered everything now. Birthdays, anniversaries, our grandchildren's names, books she'd read, conversations we'd had. How do you feel about your son's conviction? The prosecutor asked me during victim impact statements. I looked across the courtroom at Curtis in his orange jumpsuit. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I feel like I failed as a father, I said, but I succeeded as a husband. My wife is alive. That's what matters now. People ask me if I hate Curtis. Honest answer is I don't know who Curtis really is. The son I raised, the kid who played Little League and graduated nursing school and called me on Father's Day, that person feels like someone I imagined. The man who poisoned his mother for 4 years while smiling and bringing her flowers. That's someone I never want to understand. Dolores and I moved out of the house after the trial, too many bad memories, got a smaller place near the river, closer to Beverly and her kids. Dolores volunteers at the library now, helps elderly people with computer classes, says she wants to use her second chance to help other people. Sometimes I think about other families going through this right now, adult children with access to elderly parents' medications, healthcare workers who see vulnerable patients as opportunities instead of people to help, financial predators like Maxine Foster, looking for weak targets they can manipulate into doing terrible things. The warning signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them because they were coming from someone I trusted completely. That's the hardest lesson. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who can hurt you worst. But here's what I learned that might help someone else. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, investigate it. Don't ignore red flags because they're coming from family. And if you're taking care of an elderly family member, pay attention to who has access to their medications and what their motivations might be. The monster isn't always a stranger. Sometimes it's sitting at your dinner table every night, organizing pills and asking if there's anything else it can do to help. The people we trust most have the power to destroy us completely. But that same trust, when deserved, is what makes life worth living. A father's greatest failure isn't missing the signs of danger. It's refusing to act on them when they come from someone you love.